on a beautiful Saturday evening in Philadelphia. It's the second of a three-game interleague series from Citizens Bank Park between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Texas Rangers. And good evening, everybody. I'm Kenny Albert. Welcome to a special primetime edition of Fox Saturday Baseball. Tonight, a matchup of two first-place teams, the Phillies and the Rangers. Last October, Cliff Lee helped lead the Texas Rangers all the way to the World Series. I'm pleased to be joined tonight by the former general manager of the Texas Rangers, Tom Grieve, and tonight the Rangers will face Cliff Lee, who returned to the Phillies this past offseason.
Yeah, I'm sure the Ranger hitters are looking forward to this. Cliff Lee had a dramatic impact on the ball club last year, especially in postseason. It may have been off the field that he had his biggest impact. The Ranger pitchers got to see his work ethic, the way he attacked hitters, the way he went about his business, and I think they learned as much that way as they did from the impact he had on the ball club.
It'll be Lee and Colby Lewis tonight. Cliff Lee, the Phillies, and the Rangers all looking to get back to the postseason in 2011. Phillies, Rangers coming up in prime time on Fox. Won the series opener last night 3-2. Texas Rangers come in with a record of 23-22, first place in the American League West. The Rangers batting order brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. The shortstop Elvis Andrews leads off, followed by right fielder Mitch Baldwin. The second baseman Ian Kinsler will hit third. Marco Young in the cleanup spot. Then Adrian Beltre. Catcher Mike Napoli hits sixth. Bottom of the order, left fielder David Murphy. The center fielder Craig Gentry. And the pitcher, Colby Lewis. The opening pitch is brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. Andrews steps in against former teammate Cliff Lee, who made 15 regular season starts for the Rangers last year and then 5 more in the postseason. On the first pitch of the game, Andrews flies out to the right fielder, Dominic Brown, making his 2011 Phillies debut, called up yesterday from AAA. Lee making his 10th start this season. Record of 2-4. He has not won a game, Tom, since April the 14th.
Hasn't got a lot of run support, Kenny. He's been throwing the ball pretty well. He's given up 3 earned runs in each of his last 3 starts, which will win a lot of games for him when their offense gets clicking again.
In Lee's last start Monday in St. Louis, a game won by the Cardinals 3-1. Lee walked a career-high 6 batters as Mitch Moreland takes a called strike. 0-1.
Yeah, when you look at Cliff Lee, you know he has 4 pitches that he'll throw for strikes anytime. In a game that shapes up to be a low-scoring game, the little things matter, and his ability to control the running game could be a dramatic influence on the Phillies. The Rangers are 3rd in the major leagues with 46 stolen bases, and they'll run anytime.
In fact, Andrews stole home in the first inning.
Exactly. They stole a run right off the bat.
Moreland behind, 0-2. Drove in a run last night. On the ground to the right side. Valdez has it. 4 pitches, 2 outs. Defensively for the Phillies, they've committed the fewest errors in all of baseball. Ibanez, Mayberry, and Brown from left to right of the outfield. Howard at first, Valdez at second for Chase Utley, Rollins at short, Polanco at third, and a battery of Lee and Carlos Ruiz. For Phillies manager Charlie Manuel, Phillies have struggled offensively as of late after the terrific month of April. Phillies get off to the 18-8 start, playing 500 ball here in May as Ian Kinsler takes ball 1.
Well, the Ranger hitters are well aware of Cliff Lee's style, and he loves to throw a strike on the first pitch just about 70% of the time. So they won't be shy about swinging at the first pitch. The problem is it's not always a great pitch to hit. It's many times a quality strike.
And Kinsler, Tom, with great success in his career against Cliff Lee, 9 hits in 20 at-bats.
Yeah, and I think if you talk to Ian, he would probably say, yeah, he's 9 for 20, but that doesn't mean I'm comfortable going up against him tonight.
Not many are. Kinsler 0 for his last 16. Get off to the hot start. 3 home runs his first 3 games, but only 2 over the last 41. 1-2 from Lee, and Kinsler fouls it back.
I think one of the more remarkable stats that I've ever seen on Cliff Lee that we talked about before the game is the fact that he walked 6 batters in his last start. That's mind-boggling. He goes 6 starts without walking 6 guys.
He walked all 18 all of last season in 28 starts with Seattle and Texas.
Yeah, I didn't see the game. I wish I could have seen the game to see how close he was to the strike zone, whether there was maybe a narrow strike zone. We have to think it might have been that.
Here's the 1-2 to Kinsler. Lee missing away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. There it is. 18 walks all of last season, already 13 over his first 9 starts this year. Called strike 3. A 1-2-3 first, but only 11 pitches for Cliff Lee. Tom Grief. Ken Rosenthal will join us as well. We head to the bottom of the first inning. Phillies with a record of 27 and 17. Their batting order brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the fun. The shortstop, Jimmy Rollins, will lead off, followed by right fielder Dominic Brown. Placido Polanco hits third. Ryan Howard in the cleanup spot. Then left fielder Raul Ibanez. The catcher Carlos Ruiz will hit sixth. Bottom of the order, center fielder John Mayberry Jr., the second baseman Wilson Valdez, and the pitcher Cliff Lee will bat ninth as the Phillies get set to face the 31-year-old right-hander Colby Lewis. Comes in with a record of 4-4. Outstanding over his last 4 starts, 3-1 with an earned run average of 1.67.
Continued to limit the long ball. 8 home runs in his first 4 games. Only 4 in his last 4 games, and it all comes down to fastball command. In his last 4 games, Colby Lewis has commanded his fastball, thrown it where he wants to throw it. The performance is dramatically better, and it makes his breaking ball much more effective.
Lewis facing the Phillies for the first time. Rollins, Brown, and Polanco here in the first. Jimmy Rollins takes a called strike, 0-1. He was 0 for 3. Struck out twice in last night's game. Phillies only 4 hits last night, but 2 left the park. Phillies have gone 7 consecutive games with 6 or fewer base hits. Their longest stretch since June of 1908.
Wow.
And Rollins starts things off with a base hit into center field. Imagine that. It's been 103 years since the Phillies went through a stretch like this one.
Yeah, they've kind of transformed themselves into a team over the years that pretty much has been known as a hitting ball club. Now with the starting pitching they've got, their pitching and defense now led them to first place.
Phillies without Chase Utley, without Shane Victorino, who went on the disabled list yesterday, and that led to the recall of Dominic Brown. On Thursday, the general manager, Ruben Amaro Jr., said that Brown was not ready. And then Amaro changed his mind yesterday as Rollins slides back in safely. Brown played in 35 games for the Phillies last year. Fractured his hand back in March during spring training. And here he is making his first major league appearance this season. 20th round pick back in 2006, on the ground to the right side. And Rollins is forced out at second.
When we talked to Charlie Manuel about Dominic Brown, he talked about raw talent, the physical tools that he has, and the hopes that he would continue to develop now at the big league level. He was pretty excited about having him here and giving him the opportunity to play.
So Brown on at first with 1 out. And Placido Polanco stepping to the plate. Polanco 4th in the National League, batting .333. Also 4th in the league in hits. 1 for 4 in last night's game. Takes a called strike from Colby Lewis, 0-1. Ryan Howard waiting on deck. Bottom of the first inning, 1 out. Phillies with a runner on first. And Polanco fouls it off to the right side, 0-2.
Earlier in the season, when Colby was having a difficult time locating his fastball, people asked him about the velocity on his fastball. And his remark was, I'm not worried about the velocity. I'm worried about throwing it where I want to throw it. And as we've already talked about, in his last 4 starts, he's begun to do that. His breaking ball has just been able to be utilized much more effectively. He's gotten a lot of strikeouts with his breaking ball after getting ahead with his fastball.
He was 7th in the league in strikeouts last year. A breakthrough season, won a career high 12 games after spending the previous 2 years pitching in Japan. The 0-2 to Polanco. And as you just saw on the graphic, he is the toughest National Leaguer to strike out.
And you know, you're talking about getting ahead with a fastball and making the breaking ball, the slider down and away, that much more effective. It's tougher to lay off that slider when you're behind in the count than it is when you're ahead in the count. And that's really Kobe's game plan. Get ahead and put your way with that breaking ball.
Polanco striking out for only the 13th time this season. So with 2 away, here's Ryan Howard stuck in an 0 for 23 slump. But still tied for the National League lead with 35 runs batted in. Also leads the league in strikeouts. Brown, the runner on first with 2 away. Jimmy Rollins, a leadoff single. He was forced out at second. And the 0-1 to Howard. In for a called strike. 0-2 with the Rangers employing the shift.
And last night's game, Ryan Howard hit right into that shift. Hit a ground ball to Ian Kinsler in short right field.
And that is where Kinsler is right now. Brown goes, pitch out, throw to second is in time. So Howard will lead things off for the Phillies in the bottom of the 2nd inning. After 1, no score here in Philadelphia. To buy Lowe's is sponsored by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. Back in Philadelphia, we move to the 2nd inning. Phillies and Rangers are scoreless. Michael Young will lead off for the Rangers, facing his ex-teammate Cliff Lee. Young having an outstanding season, 3rd in the American League in batting average, 5th in RBIs, 1st in doubles. 15-game hitting streak earlier this season. Young, Beltre, and Napoli for Texas here in the 2nd. As we check in downstairs with Ken Rosenthal. Ken, I know you're one of the guys who felt that the Rangers should have moved Michael Young during the offseason.
That's right, Kenny, and I wrote about him an awful lot in the offseason and the possibility of the Rangers trading him. After they signed Beltre, traded for Mike Napoli, it seemed like there was no place for Young. But the Rangers insisted that Young had a place on their team. And quite obviously, I was wrong. They were right. Michael Young has been their most consistent hitter all season.
And he leads off the 2nd inning with a base hit up the middle. Tom Young has started all but 1 game for the Rangers so far this season and has been terrific.
Yeah, and Kenny, in the offseason coming into spring training, the answer that Ron Washington had to give was he was asked, how are you going to be able to get Michael Young all the playing time he needs to get? And he said, don't worry about that. I'll have him in the lineup every day. May not be in the same spot, but he'll be in the lineup every day.
Beltre flies out to Brown in right, 1 away. Tom, our Ford keys to the game tonight.
wake up the bats. That's pretty self-evident watching both these teams. Both teams have slumped. Both teams are missing key guys. Utley and Victorino are out for the Phillies. Cruz, Hamilton are out for the Rangers. And so it stands to reason that offense would be down a little bit. But I think both managers would say the guys they have now are capable of putting up more runs than they've done, and we're waiting for that to happen.
Here's Mike Napoli with one away, and Lee misses high. Ball one, and Ron Washington compared the situations before the game yesterday. He said both Josh Hamilton and Chase Utley on the Philly side are difference makers. Utley makes Ryan Howard better. Josh Hamilton makes everybody in our lineup better. And he said they take pressure off the other players. Without superstars in the lineup, some of the other players try and do too much.
I think that's exactly right. You just can't look at their performance and say the Rangers and the Phillies miss X amount of home runs, X amount of RBIs, because the impact that they have on the other players can't be measured. It's more comfortable to hit in a lineup when those guys carry the bulk of the pressure. And I just think that's such an important thing. I would agree with both managers on that.
Lee behind in the count, 3-0. Young the runner on first. And Napoli takes a called strike. Now 3-1. Utley, Hamilton, Cruz, all on the comeback trail, rehabbing in the minor leagues. David Murphy waiting on deck. One out, top of the second inning. The 3-1 from Lee to Napoli, full count. The Texas Rangers, Tom, without their entire opening day starting outfield.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often. Julio Borbon is also out in center field. But one thing it's done, it's given a lot of other players a chance to get opportunities. Guys like Craig Gentry.
Payoff pitch to Napoli. He fouls it back.
Have come up to the big leagues and gotten a chance to play when they might not normally. Andy Chavez has gotten an opportunity. I think anytime you look at the quality of those players, Hamilton, the center fielder, Cruz, the right fielder, Borbon, the center fielder, Tommy Hunter was scheduled to be the third or fourth starter, and kind of an underrated player missing is Darren O'Day, a late inning bullpen guy, and that's been kind of a bugaboo for the Rangers all season long, is late inning bullpen work. They missed Darren O'Day.
Payoff pitch to Napoli. Ball four, so Lee coming off that 6-walk performance on Monday. Walks Napoli after working his way back into the count. So the Rangers threatening here in the second with 2 on and only 1 out.
Well, Napoli is a dangerous hitter. He hasn't been hot. In fact, he's been pretty cold. But with one swing of the bat, he can turn a game around. And Cliff Lee was being very careful to him in that at bat.
0-1 on David Murphy, who ended an 0 for 16 slide with a base hit in the 9th inning last night, but then he was caught stealing to end the game.
Yeah, David wasn't too happy about that. David Murphy said he was safe. The umpire called him out, and in those type of situations, the umpire will always win. David Murphy is not a real vocal guy. He's not one prone to arguing, but Carlos Ruiz gunned it to second base, and he got the call.
1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out. Now 2-1.
The Rangers love to run. In fact, they're third in the major leagues in stolen bases. Not only have they stolen a lot of bases, they do it quite efficiently. They steal at an 80% rate.
Now 2-2. We mentioned earlier the steal at home by Andrews, part of a double steal in the first inning last night. And then Murphy on the move in the top of the 9th inning and was thrown out to end the ball game.
Well, Ron Washington is a very aggressive manager. The other thing you'll see the Rangers do as much, I think maybe more than any other team, is double steal. And they'll double steal with 2 outs. And they're very effective, and they do it quite successfully. Catch the other team with a little bit of an element of surprise.
Runners go, payoff pitch, and Murphy fouls it back. How about this one, Tom? For the fans who were in attendance last night, they saw something that has not happened in the major leagues in over 30 years. A steal of home and a game-ending caught stealing in the same game.
Wow.
That had not happened since A game between the Mets and the Expos in April of '81. Left field off the bat of Murphy. Ibanez backpedaling, makes the catch.
I'm pretty impressed you would come up with that statistic, because it never would have occurred to me that that was that rare of a thing.
With help from our friends at Stats LLC.
Okay.
April of '81. Chris Spire stole home, and then Hubie Brooks of the Mets caught stealing for the final out of the game.
I guess that's unusual. It doesn't strike me as something that would be that rare, though. I'm glad we got a chance to see it.
You can tell your grandkids you were there. So with 2 away, here's Craig Gentry, the Rangers center fielder, and he takes a called strike. Gentry batting 185 in 10 games, 5 hits in 27 at bats. Two on, 2 out.
I think for a hitter, the thing that makes Lee so tough is, as we've already talked about, he can throw any pitch at any time in the count. He changes speeds on his pitches, and he can move his cutter from the outside corner to the inside corner to a right-hand hitter. This makes it very tough to counteract. And if he senses a weakness in the hitter, a guy's a high ball hitter or a low ball hitter, or you can't handle the pitch in, he'll just pound you in that spot, one right after the other, till you show him that you can handle it, and he's got the control to do it. The Rangers were a good team last year. In fact, they were a first-place team when Lee joined them. But it was in postseason where he had his impact. He beat Tampa Bay twice in the first round of the playoffs. Then he beat the Yankees in the second round. And without him, the Rangers probably don't go to the World Series.
Started 2 games during that World Series, losing both. And he strikes out Gentry to end the inning. So the Rangers strand 2 in the second. Sponsored by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. Bottom of the second inning here in Philadelphia. Kenny Albert, Tom Grieve, Ken Rosenthal. Ryan Howard was at the plate in the bottom of the first inning when Dominic Brown was caught stealing to end the inning. So Howard will get another chance against Colby Lewis. We mentioned back in the first, Ryan no hits in his last 23 at bats. So look at his career interleague numbers. Howard, Ibanez, and Ruiz for the Phillies here in the second. Let's check in with Ken.
Well, Kenny, last Friday night in Atlanta, Ryan Howard hit a home run in honor of Aiden Silva. 7-year-old boy passed away last September due to sudden cardiac arrest. Now, Aiden was a huge Phillies fan. He was buried with his Phillies jersey on and with his glove. And that day, his school, Brandywine Wallace Elementary, had paid tribute to him by creating a garden on the school grounds. The Fanatic was there. Howard signed the jersey for Aiden's father, and he taped a message saying he was going to do his best that night.
And he breaks out of his 0 for 23 can in a big way. 10th home run of the season for Ryan Howard. Phillies take a 1-0 lead.
Well, Howard's a great home run hitter, and he's not going to stay cold for long. And he hit a pretty good pitch, really. The pitch he fouled back before it was a good fastball, a little bit higher and in. He jammed him. The pitch he hits out is in. It's a little bit lower, pretty much right where Napoli had his glove. And even though the pitcher may have made the pitch he wanted to make, big league hitters like Ryan Howard can still hit that kind of pitch, and he did.
So the Phillies, who hit 2 home runs last night, strike first. 3 of their 6 hits in this series have been home runs. And now Ibanez off the fists. Flies out to Moreland in right. 1 away.
A well-located fastball. He talked about Kobe Lewis and how important it is to locate his fastball. That pitch to Ibanez was just in far enough to where he couldn't get the good part of the bat on it. Hit a little bit off the handle, and that's why it didn't reach the warning track. And chances are, if he threw the same pitch to Ryan Howard, got it up a little bit, maybe above the waist and in, Howard wouldn't have gotten that either. Gotten it out of the ballpark either. Most left-hand hitters like the ball down. It's not as tough a pitch for them to hit.
And now Carlos Ruiz on the first pitch, grounds out to the shortstop Andrews for out number 2. So we heard from Ken about Ryan Howard's home run last Friday in honor of Aiden Silva, the 7-year-old Phillies fan who passed away last September. And so many players around Major League Baseball, Tom, take time out of their schedules to visit children in the hospitals in their respective cities. And we visited with the umpires earlier today. Jim Reynolds, Mike DeMuro, Tim Welke, and Andy Fletcher. And as part of their umpscare.com charity program, the umpires visit hospitals around the country as well. Part of their Blue Reach hospital program. And they also invite youngsters out to the ballpark on occasion.
Yeah, that's a very nice thing, and it doesn't get publicized. I'm glad you were able to mention that. And while we're talking about the umpires, we might mention that Jim Reynolds, the home plate umpire, his mother, Joan, is 70 years old today, and he asked us to wish her a happy birthday. Joan, if you're watching, happy birthday from us, and happy birthday from your son.
Jim now in his 13th season as a big league umpire. The 1-1 to John Mayberry Jr. Now 1-2. There's Jim Reynolds. I think he may want to join us up in the booth one day. A journalism major at the University of Connecticut.
There you go. I don't want to trade places with him, I'll tell you that.
Second career in the future, perhaps. Mayberry went around, says the first base umpire Mike DeMuro. Second strikeout for Colby Lewis. But he allows a home run for the 13th time this season. Tied for the major league lead. Number 10 off the bat of Ryan Howard. Saturday baseball presented by Lowe's. Phillies lead the Rangers 1-0. Top of the third inning with the pitcher Colby Lewis leading off. And he is thrown out off the carom by the shortstop Jimmy Rollins.
Well, Colby Lewis is not a bad hitter. He had a big hit in interleague play last season. 2-run base hit. He smokes that ball up the middle off of Cliff Lee. Bounces right straight to Jimmy Rollins. Wow, they hit him right in the left shoulder, it looked like. Says he's okay.
And as soon as the trainer Scott Sheridan bolted out of the Phillies dugout, Cliff looked his way and waved him back.
He's probably saying to himself, I faced the best hitters in baseball. I've never gotten hit by a line drive, and now the pitcher comes up and drills me.
Strike one to Elvis Andrus. Here was Cliff Lee's reaction. Go back to the dugout, Scott.
Yeah, and fortunately it hit him in a spot where it didn't cause an injury. So many times you see those balls go back through the mound and the pitcher lets go of the ball. He's somewhere around 50 feet away from the batter, and it might come in at 90 and go back out at him at 100. And sometimes the pitcher's defenseless, and you see some terrible injuries. Unfortunately, that wasn't one of them.
1 ball, 2 strike count. Andrus fly to right his first time up. A 1-2 from Lee. Fouled off back behind first. Elvis's favorite player, Omar Vizquel, who just keeps on going.
He's a remarkable athlete. He looks today like he did 20 years ago. And Elvis Andrus would tell you that having Omar as a teammate had a dramatic impact on his development as a major league shortstop. They spent a lot of time together when Omar Vizquel was with the Texas Rangers, and he taught him the ropes, how to be a professional, how to be a major league player, and the subtleties of playing his position.
Ron Washington told us earlier that Adrian Beltre has had a huge impact on Andrus this season.
Yeah, they play fielding games together, and Adrian's a veteran player. And I think with Beltre at third base, what Elvis has said is it allows him to play a little bit closer to second base because of the ground that Beltre can cover at third base.
Up the middle, base hit off the bat of Andrus. So the Rangers have a 1-out base runner. Time for a game break. We head to Los Angeles. Chris Rose and Mitch Williams. All right, Chris, so another RBI for Justin Turner. He had 3 hits last night, doing a terrific job filling in for the injured David Wright. First pitch to Moreland. On the ground for the shortstop Rollins. To second for 1. Out to first. Safe at first. Here's Moreland.
Philly fans will definitely voice their displeasure. It's a very close play at first, one of those that could go either way. Sometimes with our slow motion replay, we can see it a little better than the umpires. Got to call it as it happens, and those close plays are not easy.
A bang play at first. So the Rangers stay alive here in the top of the third inning. One more look.
It's not a hard hit ball. The Phillies do a good job turning it, but Moreland hustles down to first base and beats it.
That last look at real speed. So Moreland takes his lead off first with 2 outs, and Ian Kinsler at the plate. Mike DeMuro is the first base umpire who made that last call. 51 weeks ago, Mike was behind the plate when Roy Halladay pitched his perfect game for the Phillies. May 28th, 2010. Phillies have Moreland picked off. The tag applied by Rollins. Middle of the third here in Philadelphia. 1-0 Phils. Ball presented by Lowe's. We come to you in prime time from Philadelphia. Bottom of the third inning. Phillies leading on a Ryan Howard second inning home run. 1-0. As Wilson Valdez steps in to face Colby Lewis. Valdez, Lee, and Rollins for the Phillies here in the third. Valdez filling in for the injured Chase Utley, who went 1 for 3 last night in a minor league game, playing for Single A Clearwater, scheduled to play his 4th consecutive game tonight. Charlie Manuel told us, Tom, that the key is the recovery time. How does Chase recover after playing these 4 consecutive games?
Yeah, I think that's the key. You can't just play every other day and then come to the big leagues. They have to find out if you can recover and play every day. The Rangers are going through the same thing with Josh Hamilton and Nelson Cruz. Both of them have had rehab stints in Double-A. They've moved on to Triple-A. And the hope is that when the Rangers get back off this road trip, that both those players will be ready to join them sometime on the Rangers' next homestand.
Josh Hamilton today celebrating his 30th birthday. The 1-2 to Valdez, fouled off to the right side. Shane Victorino placed on the disabled list yesterday, so our apologies to those of you watching in Hawaii who hope to watch Shane tonight. Still the afternoon, of course, in Hawaii. So they are not watching in prime time. Valdez down on strikes, 1 away. 3rd strikeout for Colby Lewis as Cliff Lee steps to the plate. Cliff 2 for 17 this season. Ken Rosenthal, I was reading your column on FoxSports.com yesterday, and you wrote that the Texas Rangers might be better off in the long run without having signed Lee to a long-term contract.
Well, the reason, Kenny, is a 5-year deal for a pitcher 32 years of age isn't necessarily a great idea. The Rangers, what they did was they kept their money, they kept their assets by not trading for Matt Garza and Zach Greinke, and This way, they have to develop an ace from within, and that's what they're going to try to do. Alexi Ogando has emerged as a great surprise this season. Potential ace, looks like an ace right now. And Neftali Feliz next season, if he moves into the rotation, which could be the plan, could also be a top of the rotation type guy. So in that sense, yes, they might have been better off, but as the general manager, John Daniels, will tell you, he wanted Cliff Lee.
So no home run hit during that report by Ken, much to the chagrin of Cliff Lee. Lee fouls out to Murphy and left.
Yeah, I think you look at it the way Kenny just mentioned it. If Cliff Lee was a Ranger, Ogando probably wouldn't be in the rotation, and they wouldn't know what they know about him now as a starter, and they wouldn't have signed Adrian Beltre. So I guess from a Ranger perspective, you could make a case with Beltre playing third base, Ogando in the rotation. In the long run, that may be a better situation than having a pitcher in his mid-30s making that kind of money. But having said all that, the plan was to try to sign him. The Texas Rangers made a great effort to sign him. And when they didn't sign him, their alternate plan was a pretty solid plan as well.
Ogando 4-0, fourth in the league in earned run average.
And the big question with Alexi Ogando was, could he go from a setup reliever throwing 15 or 20 pitches a couple of times a week to a starting pitcher? Could he give you 6 innings? Could he throw 100 pitches? And would he have more than just a fastball and a hard slider? And he's certainly answered those questions.
A bloop off the bat of Rollins into the glove of Andrews. So 1-2-3 third for Colby Lotus. 1-0 Phillies. The all-new Focus from Ford. Drive one. And by One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of Major League Baseball. Roadhouse Row here in Philadelphia. Phillies lead the Rangers 1-0. We move to the fourth. Ian Kinsler leads off for the Rangers against Cliff Lee. Kinsler called out on strikes back in the first inning. Cliff Lee 4-6 for the Rangers during the regular season last year. Made 5 starts in the postseason. One on a Kinsler ripped foul. Ron Washington asked yesterday about Cliff Lee. Said he had an unbelievable presence, work ethic. He was a great influence on our young pitchers. He said we, the Rangers, offered more money Cliff chose what's best for his family. I have no hard feelings.
I think that's the exact way you have to look at it. The Rangers could not have made a stronger effort to sign Cliff Lee. They gave him more years than they originally wanted to. They went to the top of the financial limit that they had, and he chose another team. And you don't look back. You don't feel sorry for yourself. You come up with another plan. What the Texas Rangers did, they signed Adrian Beltre, and they put an emphasis on trying to develop starters from within the organization. And whether you're the Phillies, the Rangers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, whoever you are, the only way to be successful over a long period of time is to develop your own starting pitchers from within your system, draft them, develop them, and bring them to the big leagues and watch them grow.
Full count. Kinsler leading off for the Rangers here in the fourth. Cliff and his family loved it here in Philadelphia during the 09 season following the trade from Cleveland. Lee started and won 2 games for the Phillies during the 2009 World Series against the Yankees. Kinsler, deep right field. Brown on the warning track. One away. Kinsler now 0 for 2 as we head downstairs once again to Ken.
Well, Kenny, Cliff Lee and Kristen Lee, well, this bow tie I'm wearing today, it has special meaning for them. It's for the Arkansas Children's Hospital and 24 other pediatric hospitals across North America, including the Children's Medical Center in Dallas and also the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Now, getting back to Cliff and Kristen, they donated $1 million to the Arkansas Children's Hospital last November. It was in honor of their 10-year-old son, Jackson, who was treated for cancer at the hospital as an infant.
Cliff, a native of Benton, Arkansas, attended the University of Arkansas. A $1 million donation.
That's very impressive. And I think Cliff Lee has been on record as saying he loved the time that he was in Texas. He loved his teammates. He loved going to postseason play, but he was pretty honest about it. He felt going to Philadelphia gave him a better chance to go to the postseason throughout the rest of his career. The fact that he liked it here certainly played into it, but it really sounded from listening to him talk that going to the team that he thought best gave him the chance to win sealed the deal.
And he said the Texas Rangers ball club reminded him a lot of the Phillies. He said Rangers have a lot of life. They were fun guys to play with. Michael Young with a base hit into left field off the glove of Rollins. So Young now 2 for 2 tonight as we head west. Chris and Mitch. All right, thanks, Chris. We will certainly keep our audience posted once we receive word, as Marlon Byrd of the Cubs is hit by that pitch for Amasevis in Boston. Young, the runner on first, following his second hit of the game. 1 out. Adrian Beltre at the plate. Fly to right his first time up. Phillies lead the Rangers on a Ryan Howard home run. 1-0. Howard breaking out of an 0 for 23 slump with his 10th of the season.
Well, the Phillies won last night's game 3-2. They had a 2-run homer from Ben Francisco and a solo shot from Raul Ibanez. 2 home runs accounted for all of their runs, and a home run today so far has done the same thing for him.
Roy Halladay won for the 6th time this season last night, tied for the National League lead in wins. Beltre down on strikes. Now 2 away. Well, next Saturday, one of the greatest sporting events in the world comes to Fox as Barcelona takes on Wayne Rooney and Manchester United at historic Wembley Stadium. Don't miss 2 of soccer's greatest teams as they collide in the UEFA Champions League final. Next Saturday, 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific in high definition on Fox. Barcelona and Manchester United have each won 3 UEFA Champions League titles. 2 of the most successful soccer teams in the world. Ruiz called off by Howard. So Napoli fouls out. Middle of the 4th in Philly. It's our first game. Phillies leading the Rangers 1-0. Last night, C.J. Wilson's first look at this beautiful ballpark here in Philadelphia. C.J., the hard luck loser, struck out 10, but he had a matchup against Roy Halladay, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you just called me a loser, so I'm not too happy about that. But, you know, going up against Roy, obviously he's the best in the game. So, you know, it's something that the best I can do is to keep the team in it. And I just, you know, I gave up the 2-run home run, and that was really all he needed. It's kind of unfortunate.
You know, CJ, if you were able to hit a home run yourself, you might have gotten out without a loss. What was the experience like hitting against him last night?
Honestly, like hitting off Halladay was sort of like playing catch with Feldman. They have that same sort of arm slot and the same sort of size. So I kind of played catch a little bit with Feldman just in case I got to bat against Roy. You know, he's got great stuff, but he located a couple balls on me really well. I feel like a backdoor cutter first pitch and then a fastball inside, and I was still looking away. But I swung at it anyways because I was just amped up and grounded out to first. But I laid a pretty sweet sack bunt down, so I was happy about that.
Here's the 0-2 to Dominic Brown. And the Phillies sending out your former teammate Cliff Lee tonight. How much did he mean to you during the time you spent with Cliff last season, and what'd you learn from him?
You know, Cliff was great because unlike a lot of the other pitchers that I've played with, he was left-handed, you know, and a little bit better than me in a lot of ways. So it was something that I was able to learn how he used his stuff. It wasn't so much that like he taught me some sort of new pitch or whatever, but I just saw kind of how the ball looked at coming out of his hand, and it helped me reformulate kind of my approach a little bit in terms of how I would approach right-handed hitters. Because I've always had a pretty good feel against lefties, but you know, in order to be a good starter, you have to keep righties off balance as a left-handed pitcher. And he's the first lefty I've ever played catch with that was better than me, so it's really kind of cool.
One away here in the bottom of the fourth inning with Placido Polanco at the plate.
Whoa.
Base hit into the gap in right center. So the Phillies with a one-out base runner. We're chatting with Rangers left-hander C.J. Wilson, who won a career-high 15 games a year ago. And C.J., I'm not sure how closely you pay attention to some of your stats, but not many people would be able to win this bet. Your team, the Rangers, have won 30 of your starts since the beginning of last season. That's the most among any pitcher in all of Major League Baseball.
Well, I think you know, a lot of that has to do with how good our offense and defense are. You know, I pitch and have guys like Elvis out there and Kinsler out there just up the middle. Just getting ground balls to those guys is a great strategy. We've added Adrian this year, and he's been great. I mean, our defensive numbers have been kind of skewed, I think, a little bit. We've played some sloppy baseball on defense. It's just kind of come all in clumps, you know, but I had a really good time pitching with Josh Hamilton in the lineup and Nelson Cruz in the lineup and Vladdy in the lineup last year. It's like I knew if I could throw 7 innings, I was going to get a win because, you know, one way or the other, a team was going to win or I was going to win because our offense was just so good. So we're really looking forward to getting those two guys back in the lineup and getting those RBIs and home runs back.
Ryan Howard at the plate. He's 1 for 5 against you during his career. What are the keys to your success against Ryan?
He's left-handed, and I try not to give him anything to drive, you know. He's 6'5", and you know, against guys like that, the worst thing you can do is throw the ball, you know, over the middle because it allows him to get extended. But I faced him when I was a reliever, throwing a lot harder than I do now, and I basically just threw the ball as hard as I could. He got a hit off me. It was a single up the middle, if I remember correctly, and it was a fastball away, and he just kind of hooked it up the middle, like topspin. So since then, I tied him up a bunch last night, and I used my sinker a lot. So that was probably the key last night.
CJ, how about in last night's game? You gave up a couple of home runs. Can you take us through those at bats and what you tried to do and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny because Francisco and I played against each other in high school and in junior college, and I actually know him, you know, pretty well because of that. And back when we were both outfielders, he was like my rival in the Orange Empire Conference. So he was the guy I had to beat out for league MVP, and I was just trying to, you know, get him to roll over, and I threw a changeup 3-1, and he smoked it. And you know, typical by-the-book pitching is you throw a 3-1 changeup, the dude's not going to smoke a home run off you, especially if it's down and away. But that's just the way he's going right now. He's hitting lefties pretty well. So, you know, it made a bad pitch. If I scouted a little harder, maybe I would have shown something different right there. I should have gone backdoor cutter, you know, Cliff Lee style.
Raul Ibanez at the plate with runners on first and third. Ibanez took you deep last night as well.
That was a very unfortunate incident, wasn't it? You know, I 4-pitch walked him his first at bat on some borderline pitches, and I was kind of surprised he wasn't swinging at him because typically he's pretty aggressive against me. I've faced him probably 24, 27 times over my career, and typically he jumps on the first pitch that's reachable, you know, because I've had good success against him. And then so he walks, and I think he timed me. You know, I threw him 4 fastballs, and then he came up that second at bat, and I threw him another heater, and he just jumped all over it. It wasn't a very good pitch. It was, you know, I was just trying to get ahead of it because I figured he wasn't going to swing because he didn't swing the first time. And I should have located the ball better down and away, and it was kind of up and away, and he just hit it out over the fence, over the 401 sign in center field. So I actually thought Gentry was going to catch it because he's such a deer out there. He just catches everything. But just, you know, unfortunate ball didn't go my way that time. Oh, I'm going to make a play on this ball. No. That would have been sweet.
Just out of your reach, Sika.
Yeah.
Let's transition from baseball to bowling. Tell us about your charity event last month.
Yeah, April 21st, we had a charity event, the 3rd annual Strikeout Bowling event for my charity, the C.J. Wilson Children's Charity. We raised money for local children's hospitals and children's healthcare initiatives in Dallas and in Fort Worth. And it was our most successful event yet. I guess, you know, going to the World Series and stuff, people care about the Rangers a little bit more. And this offseason, we're actually going to have a charity poker tournament, so hope to get some of the other players there and, you know, raise some money for a good cause.
Ibanez awaiting the 2-2, and he fouls it back to the screen.
I'd go for the bounced slider right here. That'd be my strategy call. If I could telepathically tell Colby, bounce the slider, now's a good time. You know, we got 1 out. He's in swing mode. Throw the slider below the zone.
Is that a prediction?
That's just, I mean, Colby's got a good slider. That's what I would go with if I was him. We'll see how it plays out.
Let's see it unfold. Here it comes.
You want to do some play-by-play?
And the pitch. Ball rolled up to Kinsler. Here we go. Elvis with the turn, and we get him out at first. Double play.
Very nice. I'm a little nervous, CJ.
That was a slider. It was a slider. He didn't get it down quite enough, but hey, we got the double play.
Would you like to come upstairs?
No, I got a day job, guys. A night job.
Thanks, CJ.
All right, love you guys. See you.
Top of the 5th inning here in Philadelphia as David Murphy leads off against Cliff Lee and takes a called strike. 0-1. Murphy fly to left his first time up. No runs, only 3 base hits for the Rangers. Phillies with a run on 4 hits. Murphy, Gentry, and Lewis for Texas here in the 5th. Great job by C.J. Wilson, who joined us during the last half inning.
C.J. was primed for that interview.
C.J. Wilson in prime time.
Yes, he was.
And he was terrific last night. Did allow the 2 home runs, but struck out 10 in 7 innings. Roy Halladay, 7 strikeouts in 8 innings, winning for the 6th time this season.
Yeah, and I think when you talk to the Ranger hitters, they will all tell you, nice curveball right there from Cliff Lee for strike 3. How impressed they were with Roy Halladay. The movement on his pitches, the location, and to a man, they would say he's probably the best pitcher in baseball.
4th strikeout for Cliff Lee. Time for our Jeep game summary. Ryan Howard breaking out of an 0 for 23 slump with a solo home run back in the 2nd inning. Lee has scattered 3 hits. The only blemish on Lewis's record, the Howard homer. Craig Gentry struck out his first time up. The 0-1 from Lee. Counting the inside corner. Now 0-2. Gentry strikes out on 3 pitches, 2 away. Time for another DirecTV game break with Chris and Mitch. All right, thanks, Chris. So the former Ranger Mark Teixeira with a 2-run shot. Russell Martin with a 2-run home run as well. After the Mets took a 2-0 lead in that game, it's now 4-2 Yankees. Yankees, Tom, have lost 6 consecutive home games.
Yeah, I've watched the Rangers go into New York over the years, and that's not an easy place to play.
How about Cliff Lee? He strikes out the side in order in the 5th. Honor the life of the great Harmon Killebrew, the Hall of Famer who passed away this week at the age of 74. 573 career home runs, 11th on baseball's all-time home run list, 11-time All-Star, 1969 American League most valuable player. Killebrew's funeral service was held yesterday in Arizona. Former teammate and fellow Hall of Famer Bert Blyleven, who will be inducted later this summer, asked those in attendance to stand and cheer Killebrew for an imagined home run number 574 towards the end of the service, and the crowd responded with a rousing effort.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think when you talk to the people who knew Harmon Killebrew well, the one thing that shines through with everybody is what an honorable and humble man he was. When you were in his presence, you didn't feel like you were with a superstar player. You felt you were just with a normal, honest, hardworking guy, and he just was a gentleman and a pleasure to be around.
Ruiz pops out to the second baseman, Kinsler. You and I, along with Ken Rosenthal, spent about 20 minutes chatting with Phillies manager Charlie Manuel, who was a teammate and close friend of Harmon Killebrew when Charlie broke in 1968. His locker was in between the lockers of Harmon Killebrew and the late Bob Allison.
Yes. Yeah, you could just tell by the smile on Charlie's face and the way he talked what his feelings were for Harmon Killebrew.
Here's John Mayberry Jr. Struck out his first time up. Charlie told us Harmon was a better person than player. He said sharing that close space in the locker room next to Harmon Killebrew was a career highlight.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said Harmon was easy to talk to. They used to go fishing together. Great friend to Charlie Manuel, and also spent a lot of time around Ron Washington, the Rangers manager. When Ron played for Minnesota, Harmon Killebrew was a Twins broadcaster.
Yep, and I think Ron has the same kind of comments to make that Charlie had. Just what a warm, genuine person he was. The thing I liked listening to Charlie talk about was, you know, he goes to all the different parks and people will say, here's where Mark McGuire hit one, here's where Barry Bonds hit one. And then he would think about the same parks and say, well, if you guys only knew where Harmon Killebrew hit some of the balls he hit. And he shied away from that, but occasionally he just had to speak up and kind of stick up for the old timers. They hit some pretty mammoth home runs themselves.
The 1-2 hits Mayberry, so he'll head down to first. Fox Saturday Baseball is presented by Lowe's. Let's build something together. Phillies with a one-out base runner with Wilson Valdez stepping to the plate.
And Kobe Lewis has had very good control today. That is just an unusually wild pitch. There's no reason why he would be throwing up and in this type of a game to a hitter he's probably never faced before. That's just a ball that got away from him.
So here's Valdez, who struck out in the third. And one more anecdote from Charlie Manuel. He said when he was managing the Indians and they were in Minneapolis to take on the Twins, Harmon Killebrew walked into the clubhouse and a couple of the Cleveland players yelled to Charlie, who was sitting in his office, "Your guy's here." Guy you always tell us about.
Yeah, I'm sure Charlie probably said back, well, spend some time with him, you'll be better for it.
I had the pleasure of meeting Harmon during a telecast in Minnesota in 2003 on Fox. Paul Molitor was the analyst. He idolized Harmon Killebrew as well. And I pulled out the tape this week, and you hear all the quotes from so many of Harmon's former teammates and friends. And gentle man is the term that I read over and over during this past week.
Yep, I would agree with that. I wasn't close to Harmon. I met him and talked to him several times, and that's the thing that I came away with every time, is what a nice, gentle guy he was. He didn't look that way when he was at the plate, a fierce competitor, the way he swung the bat and the way he played the game on the field, but off the field he was genuinely like that.
He hit more home runs during the 1960s than anybody else. 393 long balls during that decade. A look at the decade leaders since, including Mike Schmidt.
Wow.
In the 1980s. And how about Jose Bautista? 2 more today. Rangers get the lead runner, Mayberry, at second. So now 2 away, and Valdez on at first.
Yeah, I don't know that you can come up with a player in recent memory, maybe long term, who went so quickly from being a fairly nondescript player to being the best power hitter in the game. You know, it happened in September a couple of years ago when he hit 9 or 10 home runs, carried through the last season when he had the huge home run RBI season. But he hit about 260 last year. This year he's hitting about 360, and the home runs are coming at an even more rapid pace. It's just an unbelievable story.
Here's Cliff Lee with 2 outs. Fouled out to the left fielder Murphy, his first time up. Lee gets the bat up, 0-2. Base hit up the middle off the bat of Lee. Valdez heading for third. Phillies with runners on the corners with 2 outs here in the 5th.
Lee's behind in the count. He hits a pretty good breaking ball, really. It's down and away on the outside part of the plate. He just reaches down, he gets the bat on it, finds a hole up the middle with a ground ball. He's a pretty good hitter. He's not hitting for much of an average this year. It's kind of hit or miss for a pitcher. You bat once or twice a week, 3 or 4 times a week. It's pretty difficult to get into any kind of a groove, but I think you go by what he looks like at the plate. And there's a few pitchers, C.J. Wilson is one, Cliff Lee's one. When they stand at the plate and swing, they look like a hitter. They don't look like a pitcher.
Charlie Manuel actually used Lee as a pinch hitter on Thursday.
I saw that.
First pitch to Jimmy Rollins, fouled off to the right side. Lee pinch hit for Kyle Kendrick in the 3rd. Charlie did not want to waste a position player so early in the game.
Yeah, he was going to take the pitcher out. He's going to pinch hit for him anyway. And you only have so many extra position players, and he's anticipating a comeback and a close game late and wanting to be able to maneuver late in the game with all his key guys. Didn't want to use one that early in the game and what wasn't that critical a juncture of the ball game.
That hit by Lee, the 5th Phillies hit tonight. Keep in mind they have gone 7 straight games with 6 or fewer base hits. They have 5 in 5 innings tonight. A 1-1 to Rollins, catching the outside corner. 1-2.
That's a curveball from Kobe Lewis. He has a good curveball. His strikeout pitch is generally his slider. A lot of times he'll throw the curveball early in the count just to throw it for a strike, get ahead in the count, and then put the hitter away with a hard slider.
Lee goes. The pitch is inside, and Lee slides in safely at second.
Well, he's an athlete, and he knew he wasn't being held on. He knew they were paying no attention to him, and he said, hey, it's almost like defensive indifference late in the ball game. If you're going to let me go, I'll take the base.
Lee's first career steal. Second and third, 2 outs. 2-2 to Rollins. Fouled off to the right side.
And the last 2 pitches have been those hard sliders down and in. That's where Kobe Lewis will get many of his strikeouts. Down and in to the lefty, down and away to the right-hand hitter.
That was not only Lee's first career stolen base, but his first career attempt.
He's 1 for 1.
Second and third, 2 outs. Phillies lead 1-0. Gets away from the counter. Napoli coming in to score is Valdez, and the Phillies lead 2-0.
The ball might have hit Jimmy Rollins. And look, it was down and in. Rollins went to first base, and I think it's going to be ruled a hit by pitch.
Well, here comes Ron Washington. Good job with the home plate umpire, Jim Reynolds.
I thought that Jim Reynolds put his hands over his head, indicating that it was a hit by pitch. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like the runner is going to go back to third base. That's Wilson Valdez.
Yeah, Valdez has been called out of the dugout by Reynolds.
And it's hard to say what would have happened if the ball didn't hit Rollins in the foot. Chances are Napoli would have been able to block it. It definitely glanced off the side of his foot, and that might have been the reason that Napoli was unable to catch the ball.
So Valdez sent back to third, Lee back to second, Rollins on at first. Second hit batsman of the inning.
In any event, it shapes up as a low-scoring game, and it really was an open base. And from the Rangers' point of view, you get a chance to pitch out of this jam by pitching to Dominic Brown, a promising young player, but a young player without the experience of Jimmy Rollins. You may actually be in a better situation to get out of the inning right here.
So Brown with the bases loaded. He is 0 for 2 today. He learned of his promotion yesterday morning when he was told by his AAA manager, the Hall of Famer Ryan Sandberg, who was in his pajamas when he ran into Brown in the hotel and said, "You're heading to Philadelphia." Right field, but it will stay in the ballpark. Moreland is under it, and the Phillies strand 3 in the 5th. Is sponsored by Chevrolet, proud to support youth baseball across the country, and by Michelin, a better way forward. 6th inning here in Philadelphia. Phillies leading the Rangers 1-0. Tom, we spoke about the lack of run support for Cliff Lee as of late. Phillies have scored only 3 runs over his last 5 starts. Coming into this one, only 1 over the first 5 innings so far tonight.
Well, he's pitching like he's going to try to make that 1 run stand up. He's throwing the ball great. He punched out the side in the last inning. David Murphy, Craig Gentry, Colby Lewis now 1 walk, 6 strikeouts in the ball game. I think looking at the game ahead of time, it looked like a low-scoring affair. Both pitchers have been throwing the ball great. Both teams have been having a hard time scoring. So far through 5 innings, that's pretty much what it's been.
Elvis Andrus 1 for 2. Rangers have played 4 consecutive 1-run games, losing 3 of the 4. 6 of their last 7 games have been decided by 1 run. They trail by 1 here tonight. Bounce foul back behind third. 1-1 on Andrus. Cliff Lee, as you mentioned, Tom, has retired 5 in a row. 4 of the 5 by the strikeout.
Well, he's just being Cliff Lee tonight. He's just locating his pitches. He throws the cutter extremely effective into the right-hand hitters. That's what he struck Beltre out on. And right there with the cutter, you just can't get the head of the bat out. It's like the Mariano Rivera pitch. But right when you anticipate it in, he might drop it on the outside corner and backdoor it on the outside corner and catch you looking that way too. Get you looking for a fastball, throw you a slow curveball or a changeup. He's just a masterful pitcher.
A 1-2. Hard hit grounder. Polanco across. Andrus is retired. Visit your local Lowe's to cast your Scotts MLB All-Star ballot and enter for a chance to win a VIP All-Star Week experience. Compliments of Scotts. The All-Star game in Phoenix, Tuesday, July 12th, right here on Fox. And Ron Washington and his staff will be there. Ron will manage the American League All-Stars. Charlie Manuel managed the National League All-Stars each of the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, each one of those guys has been among the most successful managers in their franchise history. I know Ron Washington is excited about the opportunity. He's asked Manny Acta and John Farrell to be his coaches. And he talked about in his first year as a manager when Jim Leland came to him and asked him to be a coach, and said that he felt it was important as the manager of the All-Star game to give the younger managers a chance. And so Ron has returned the favor to Manny Acta and to John Farrell, 2 young managers.
He said you never know when those guys might get another opportunity.
Exactly. And I think the decision by Jim Leland to ask Ron Washington had a huge effect on him. And he's carried it forward.
1 ball, 2 strike count. Mitch Moreland 0 for 2 tonight. Lee has retired 6 in a row. The only run of this game scored back in the 2nd inning when Ryan Howard took Colby Lewis deep. His 10th home run of the season. Pitch number 76 from Cliff Lee. Moreland down on strikes. 7th strikeout for Lee. As we check in once again with Chris and Mitch, a DirecTV game break. All right, Chris, Red Sox looking to win their 8th in a row following the 2-10 start. Here's Ian Kinsler, and he takes a called strike. Chris mentioned, among others, Ted Williams, who was your first major league manager back in 1970 in Washington.
He was, Kenny. It's funny because I grew up a Yankee fan. I actually hated the Red Sox, hated Ted Williams, mainly because my younger sister loved Ted Williams and the Red Sox. And it actually affected me to a certain degree when I first got a chance to play for him, because it was very hard to get used to seeing someone that, you know, I'd watched as a kid and collected his baseball card actually be my manager. And I think it probably hindered my development a little bit, just being in awe of the manager and not being able to get around that.
I can only imagine his presence anytime he was around you guys as young players.
Yeah, if you got into a conversation about hitting with him, you had to be prepared to spend 15 or 20 minutes, because he loved to talk about hitting. I think he was bored being a manager. I don't think he really wanted to do that.
Kinsler with a base hit into left field. Fourth hit of the game for the Texas Rangers. I was about to ask you along those lines whether or not he enjoyed managing, but you felt he enjoyed talking and teaching hitting more than actually managing.
He loved talking hitting, but I think Bob Short, who was our manager at the time, talked him into being the manager. And the first year as a manager, the team had dramatic improvement. All the hitters improved. And I think as time went on, he got a little bit bored with being a manager. He was an incredibly interesting guy to talk to. He was an expert fly fisherman, an expert photographer. He was an ace pilot during the war. So he's a very brilliant guy who I think could have been a CEO of a Fortune 500 company if he wasn't a baseball player. He was very scientific in his approach. Very difficult to play for, though, because he felt he could talk to you and teach you how to hit, and you would become a 300 hitter. He just had the misfortune of managing the Texas Rangers at a time when there was a lot of mediocre hitters, myself included.
Kinsler steals second, no throw.
You know, that's an interesting stolen base because that looked like defensive indifference as well. Cliff Lee pitching from the windup. He didn't even take a stretch. And so Ian just trots down to second base. And, you know, this is a 1-0 ball game. And if the next batter singles to center field, that goes down as like a monumental mental mistake for Cliff Lee, who you wouldn't think would ever make a mistake like that.
What would manager Ted Williams have said?
He'd say, I told you pitchers were stupid. He hated pitchers. He hated his own pitchers.
I can't even imagine for a 22-year-old rookie what it must have been like for you to walk into that manager's office for the first time.
He came up to me one day and he said, I want you to take your stance and start your swing and stop your swing where you think the bat makes contact with the ball. I tried to do that, and he said, think about it some more, and when you come up with an answer that's even the starting point for a conversation, we'll continue it.
Young is called out on strikes. So Kinsler stranded on second, middle of the sixth in Philly. Baseball presented by Lowe's. In Philadelphia, Phillies lead the Rangers 1-0, bottom of the sixth inning. Placido Polanco leads off against Colby Lewis and takes a called strike. Polanco 1 for 2, singled back in the 4th inning. Phillies scored their run of the 2nd on Ryan Howard's 10th home run of the season, breaking an 0 for 23 slide. Polanco fouls it back, 0-2.
It's fun watching both these pitchers work tonight. They're both throwing a lot of strikes, coming right after the hitters, yet at the same time baffling the hitters with an assortment of pitches that's kept hitters on both teams off balance.
Polanco strikes out on 3 pitches. 5th strikeout for Colby Lewis. And we take you back to the 2nd inning.
That was a low fastball down and in. Left-hand hitters like the ball down and in. He keeps his hands in close to his body, which allows him to get the good part of the bat on the ball. And he roped that line drive out of the ballpark. Beautiful swing for a guy that was in a 0 for 23 slump. Pretty good way to come out of it right there. Only run of the ball game.
We've talked about the Phillies' offensive struggles, including this game tonight. Only 14 runs over their last 8 games.
Yeah, I don't think there's an at-bat in the game that demonstrates how well the pitchers are throwing than the last at-bat to Polanco, or maybe the first. You mentioned, Kenny, that he doesn't strike out very much, and Colby Lewis has struck him out and made him look bad 2 times.
Cliff Lee chatting with Cole Hamels. There's Roy Halladay on the right.
Hitter's nightmare looking at those 3 guys on back-to-back-to-back nights.
Roy Oswald.
Not to mention Roy Oswald.
Yeah, we'll start tomorrow against Matt Harrison. Howard fouls it off to the left side, downstairs to Kent.
Well, Kenny, talking about the Phillies aces, I was speaking yesterday with Jimmy Rollins, and he said, you know, it's like we're playing with half a team with all the injuries, half a team and all those aces. Well, all those aces comprise a pretty good team in themselves, and that's why the Phillies have the best record in the National League.
So many teams around baseball would love to have just one of those 4 guys.
Absolutely. Cole Hamels kind of gets looked over. He'd be an ace on probably 75 or 80% of teams in Major League Baseball. He's having a spectacular year himself. His stats are right up there with all 3 of the other guys.
He was the ace here in Philadelphia, World Series MVP in 08. Howard crowding the plate. Payoff pitch from Lewis. Called strike 3 on the outside corner. Strikeout number 6, 2nd in a row for Colby Lewis.
Well, for people that like an old-fashioned pitcher's duel, you're getting a beauty tonight. Howard is on top of the plate. That pitch is on the outside corner. He got a good look at it. He took it. And Jim Reynolds called it strike 3.
So 2 away. Here is Ibanez, who is 0 for 2, grounded into a double play his last time up. Tom, you mentioned Polanco striking out for the 2nd time. The first time this season he has struck out twice in 1 game.
Wow. Well, he's seen some really good off-speed pitches from Colby Lewis. And I think for any major league hitter, the first time you're seeing a guy, and I'm not sure how many times Polanco's hit against Colby Lewis, but probably not in a long time. He's a different pitcher right now than he was when he was younger. That breaking ball that he throws is very difficult to hit, or lay off, I guess is a better way of saying it, the first time you see it.
Ibanez at the plate now, the only Philly starter tonight who had faced Lewis previously.
Oh, really?
And he went 1 for 4.
Well, even people who had seen Colby Lewis when he first came up with the Rangers or the A's, the teams he was with earlier in his career, you're not seeing the same guy right now. He's a polished pitcher now. Back then he was more of a young, hard-throwing pitcher without the same kind of idea how to pitch. And he's completely different now.
You had a look at pitching coach Mike Maddox, the former Philly.
Yep. Mike Maddox has done a great job with the Rangers staff. When Colby Lewis went to Japan, he pitched incredibly well over there.
Playoff pitch. Lewis missing high and away, ball 4. So Ibanez heads to first. First walk issued by Lewis tonight. So a 2-out base runner for the Phillies here in the 6th. Well, next week, Fox Saturday Baseball is back in prime time. The Royals head to Texas to take on these Rangers. Phillies battle the Mets, Cardinals, and Rockies. Reds and Braves, Red Sox, and the Tigers. Next week's telecast of Fox Saturday Baseball in prime time, presented by Lowe's, begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Check local listings for the game and start time in your area. Carlos Ruiz, 0 for 2 tonight, just 4 for his last 44. 1 on, 2 out. Bottom of the 6th inning. Phillies lead 1-0.
I mentioned that Kobe Lewis had pitched in Japan very successfully for 2 years. The Rangers signed him to a 2-year contract at really a modest salary. And there was questions whether Kobe's success in Japan would translate to the major leagues. And you have to give credit to the Texas Rangers and their scouts, because it definitely translated. He gave the Rangers innings over 200, 7th in the league in strikeouts, 8th in opponents' batting average, and was a terrific pitcher in postseason play. It's not a common occurrence where a pitcher will go over to Japan, at a relatively young age, and then come back and be this successful at the big league level.
He was 28 when he went to Japan 3 years ago. California native, drafted by the Rangers back in '99. Spent parts of 3 seasons with Texas. Then pitched for the Tigers and the A's, 2 years in Japan. Returned to the Rangers last season. The 2-2 to Ruiz, low and away, full count. John Mayberry Jr. waiting on deck should Ruiz reach. Ibanez takes his lead off first. He goes. And it's fouled off down the right field line.
This game tonight, Kobe Lewis's fastball has been anywhere from 88 to 91 miles an hour, which is probably 2 or 3 miles an hour on average harder than he was throwing earlier in the season. So not only at this stage of the season is he commanding his fastball much better, he's also got his velocity well back up to where it was before too. Great combination.
Second consecutive walk issued by Lewis. Time for another game break. Chris and Mitch. All right, Chris, Giants have won 3 in a row. A's have lost 3 straight. Here in Philadelphia, Kobe Lewis struck out the first 2 Phillies this inning, but has issued back-to-back walks to Ibanez and Ruiz. So here's John Mayberry Jr., who struck out in the 2nd and was hit by a pitch in the 5th.
Williams has become quite a comedian. Never in my wildest dreams when he was a young, hard-throwing left-hander did I anticipate he would become such an outstanding broadcaster. He runs hard. He just doesn't get there as fast.
Mitch joined Chris in the studio last week, and we invited him back tonight.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you a quick story about Mitch Williams. When the Rangers drafted Mitch Williams in the Rule 5 draft, obviously he came to Major League camp. He was so wild that we wouldn't let left-hand hitters bat against him in batting practice. Wow. Not that we wouldn't let him. They didn't want to. But to his credit, he became a fine Major League pitcher. Better be careful. You probably go to another game break and he'll come back with something about me.
Oh, I know he's waiting.
Probably sitting there thinking about it right now.
We can sense that mind working 3,000 miles away. There's Brett Tomko in the Texas pen. The 1-2 and a base hit into left field. Ibanez rounds 3rd, heading home. The throw is cut off. The run scores. Ruiz caught between 2nd and 3rd. And he will be tagged out. But the Phillies take a 2-0 lead. We'll return after these messages from your local Fox station. Ball presented by Lowe's in prime time, with the Phillies leading the Rangers 2-0. We head to the 7th inning. Adrian Beltre will lead off against Cliff Lee. Beltre 0 for 2. Fly to right and struck out. Phillies with a run at the bottom of the 6th after Colby Lewis struck out the first 2 Philly hitters. He then walked 2, and John Mayberry Jr. drove in Raul Ibanez. Beltre pops it up to the right side. A towering pop-up. Easy play for Ryan Howard. 1 away.
I think the walk that hurt was the walk to Carlos Ruiz. You can see pitching carefully to Ibanez. He had a home run last night. He's swinging the bat much better in May than he did earlier in the season. But the walk to Ruiz really set the inning up, and I'm sure that's the one Kobe would like to have back.
Now trailing 2-0. Here's Mike Napoli, who walked and then fouled out to Ryan Howard. Ken Rosenthal, it was quite the offseason for Mike Napoli, wasn't it?
It was, Kenny, and I'm interested to hear Tom's take on this. Napoli was traded twice within 4 days in late January. First, he went from the Angels to the Blue Jays in the Vernon Wells trade, and then from the Blue Jays to the Rangers for reliever Frank Francisco. Well, he knew something was up when he never got a call from the first GM that acquired him, the Blue Jays' Alex Anthopoulos. He called his agent, Brian Grieper, and Brian Grieper told him there might be another move.
It's interesting, Kenny, that move was probably already in the works at the time of that trade. But at the same time, a call from the general manager for the Blue Jays probably would have made him feel a little bit better. He probably didn't want to call and welcome him to the Blue Jays, then have to call back a couple of days later and tell him he was traded. But I'm sure that was all in the works ahead of time.
Napoli with a base hit up the middle. So what was the phone call like back in December '88 when you traded Mitch Williams to the Cubs in exchange for Rafael Palmeiro and Jamie Moyer?
Well, you know, no one wanted to make that trade for Mitch because he was such a good pitcher for us, but at the same time it was a great opportunity for him to go to the Cubs. They needed a closer. He became an excellent closer. They went to postseason, and from our standpoint, we needed some offense, and Rafael Palmeiro obviously provided that for us. It's one of those trades that worked out exactly like each team hoped it would.
You know, when you think back, I know it's over 22 years later. How did those talks begin? You call them, or did they call you?
I think I was pretty good friends with Huey Alexander, who was their major league scout at the time and was involved in a lot of their trade talks. And so we would have conversations frequently. And you know, I would say, he'd ask, "What are you guys looking for?" I said, "We need some offense." And I'd say, "What are you looking for?" He said, "Well, we really need a closer." And you know, before you know it, we're talking about some names. And then the general manager got involved with it, and we finalized the trade. But it probably started with Huey Alexander.
Murphy flies out to Ibanez on the warning track and left.
Huey Alexander passed away a few years ago. He was probably one of the 5 or 6 of the most colorful, famous, old-time scouts. There wasn't a person in baseball that didn't know him or that he didn't know, that he wasn't cordial to. And he loved to talk baseball and tell stories, and everyone in baseball loved to listen to him. He's someone that's very much missed by a lot of people in baseball.
And if he were still with us today, I'm sure he would be receiving a text from Ken Rosenthal right about now. As Ken checks in around the league on a daily basis.
Yep. It'd probably be one of his contacts.
Ken, how many GMs have you exchanged messages, voicemails, texts, tweets with today?
Well, many, Kenny, but none was as colorful as Uncle Huey. And Uncle Huey was the kind of guy who'd give out some information. We can say that now that he is gone, but he was one of the game's great characters, as Tom said.
I guess he was one of Ken's go-to guys.
Yeah, I think you had to be prepared. If you had a conversation with Uncle Huey, you had to be prepared that it was going to be passed on to a lot of different people. So you had to be careful.
Ken, how is Tom Green as general manager? Tight-lipped, or did he ever give you some good stuff?
Actually, Tom was a little bit before my time as a national writer.
Hey, watch that.
Well, not because you're old or anything. I just got to the party a little bit late.
2-1 to Gentry. Fouled back to the screen. Now 2-2.
Yeah, I think for the most part, people in baseball, they don't mind passing on information that's not harmful to anybody. And I think the feeling is if you pass a little bit on, maybe you get some back that can help you in the long run.
2-2 from Lee. Another foul. No runs, 5 hits for the Rangers, 2 runs on 6 hits for the Phillies. 2 outs, top of the 7th inning. Two to Gentry. Full count.
Gentry's giving him a good battle right here. He struck out the first couple of times up. Colby Lewis is the on-deck hitter. Chances are if Gentry gets on, you'd see a pinch hitter for him.
Pitch number 100 from Cliff Lee. Gentry down on strikes for the 3rd time tonight. 7th inning stretch time in Philadelphia. Heroes is sponsored by Jeep and by Burger King, now offering $1 frozen drinks. Bottom of the 7th inning here in Philadelphia. Would you like something from the Phillies gift shop to bring home, Tom?
No, thanks. They've got some great opportunities in there, though. I guess if I went in there, I would probably go with the Ryan Howard shirt.
Ryan, the big blow back in the 2nd inning when he took Colby Lewis deep. Wilson Valdez 0 for 2 tonight. Cliff Lee waiting on deck. Center field, Gentry. 1 out. Ian Kinsler wearing a microphone for us tonight, and he spoke moments ago in the dugout about his stolen base back in the 6th inning when Cliff Lee delivered to the plate.
He looked at me and goes, that was stupid. I looked at him, I was like, is he trying to trick me right here? Yeah. All right, what step? Well, I was like, all right, what foot is he supposed to step back with? Okay, his right foot. When his right foot moves, go. He looked at me mid windup. He went.
So Ian Kinsler thought Cliff might have been trying to trick him on the base pass.
You know, I would think the same thing. If you've got a guy like Cliff Lee on the mound in a 1-run game, I think the last thing you expect is for him to go into his windup. And you probably look at him and say, okay, what's going on here? But as he said, when his right foot stepped back to start his windup, he knew he could scoot into second base with no throw. I can't remember the last time I saw that.
So I guess none of your 7 career steals were that easy?
No, I earned mine. The thing about that, though, is, okay, he gives up the stolen base, and then he comes back with his best stuff and struck out Michael Young, who had already had 2 hits against him. So he recognized what happened and then rose to the occasion with some excellent pitching.
Lee, a base hit his last time up. Phillies have 6 hits tonight. They have not had more than 6 hits in any of their last 7 games prior to this one. Slow roller to the left side. And Lee is thrown out by Andrews. Close play at first. Now 2 away. And Lee receives a hand as he heads back to the Phillies dugout. Help make a baseball moment kids will never forget. Go to ChevyBaseball.com to support youth baseball. Plus enter to win one of 4 trips to the Major League Baseball All-Star Game and the keys to a new Chevrolet.
One thing I've noticed in the last 2 games that I love is when Roy Halladay last night hit a ground ball to the infield, he ran as hard as he could all the way through first base, and Cliff Lee just did the same thing.
Rollins with a base hit as it drops in the left center field gap.
So many times you'll see a pitcher hit the ground ball and know that he's out and barely get halfway to first base, mainly to save energy and not to hurt themselves. But those guys are athletes, and they went as hard as they could. You take a look at Cliff here. He's not thinking, I better conserve my energy, I better not pull a hamstring. He's thinking, I'm going to try to beat this ball out. And that's because he's an athlete. Same with Roy Halladay. He's an athlete. He's a competitor. And with 2 outs in this situation, Rollins is a definite threat to go. Looks like Ron Washington going to come out and maybe make a pitching change.
And that base hit by Rollins, Tom, the 7th for the Phillies tonight. So their streak comes to an end. They had gone 7 consecutive games with 6 hits or fewer.
Wow.
So after Lewis goes 6 2/3, he will leave trailing 2-0. Here comes Arthur Rhodes. Starts. Lewis exits after 6 2/3, trailing 2-0. In from the bullpen, the 41-year-old left-hander, Arthur Rhodes. 14th appearance this season.
Arthur, part of the 40-plus-year-old tandem, left-handed tandem that the Rangers have out in their bullpen, Darren Oliver and Arthur Rhodes.
Facing Dominic Brown, who was not yet 4 years old when Arthur Rhodes made his major league debut in August of '91.
He's been around a long time. So is Darren Oliver.
Bounce foul. Back behind first. The two left-handers in the Rangers bullpen, a combined 38 seasons. The first batter Rhodes faced in his major league debut back in '91 is now the Rangers' first base coach.
That's kind of ironic. I'm sure they can relive that moment in both their careers. Knowing players, Gary Pettis probably knows exactly what pitches he threw him and what the result was.
Are you surprised that Charlie Manuel is letting the youngster Brown face the left-hander?
No, I think he wants to give the kid a chance to shine. He's got a lead. He's got one of his aces on the mound. And I don't think in his first start, since he's been recalled, that he wants to take him out and have the kid feel, I'm not good enough to hit in that situation. I think he wants him to try to answer the challenge. He's a guy that fits in long-term here, and he's going to have these opportunities in the future.
Rollins goes. The throw from Napoli is in time. Rollins out at second, and that will end the inning. 7 innings in the books here in Philadelphia. Still 2-0 Phillies. Your Torrealba will pinch hit for Arthur Rhodes. Cliff Lee in 7 innings has not allowed a run. Rangers with 5 base hits. Lee has struck out 9.
Lee at 101 pitches now as we start the 8th inning. That cutter's just an unhittable pitch. There's a little more like a slider maybe. But hard breaking in on the fist to the right-hand hitters.
Torrealba batting just .215, 0 for 1 as a pinch hitter this year.
The cutter is around 88 or 89 miles an hour. Doesn't break quite as much as the slider. The slider breaks the same way but more, and it's maybe 5 miles an hour slower.
Antonio Bastardo and Michael Stoops in the Phillies pen. We take you back to the last half inning, and you see the call made by the home plate umpire Jim Reynolds as the throw was made down to second by Napoli. So even though the Rangers finished the play at second with the tag out of Rollins, Rhodes struck out Dominic Brown for the final out in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Excellent call. I was focused on second base, getting ready to say what a great throw Mike Napoli made. Good call.
On the ground for the shortstop, Rollins. Torrealba is retired. I think most of the folks in the stadium were looking down at second base. Sellout crowd, 45,604, the 147th consecutive sellout here in Philadelphia. But you cannot put anything by our director Ray Tipton and his fine group of cameramen and women.
Great call, guys. Dominic Brown probably wishes that it didn't go that way so he could lead off the next inning.
That's right. Elvis Andrus 1 for 3 tonight.
The Ranger catchers, Torrealba and Napoli, and occasionally Taylor Teagarden, have thrown exceptionally well this year. They're gunning down runners at about a 43% rate, which is very high in the game today. So they've controlled the other team's running game really well, and they have an excellent running game of their own. That's been a big part of them being able to stay above water and stay in first place.
Phillies in first place as well, record of 27-17. Cliff Lee, a big reason why.
And he's still throwing well. His fastball has been between 90 and as high as 94, usually 92, 93-ish. .78 strikes, 32 balls. An excellent ratio right there.
The 2-2. Ball 3, says first base umpire Mike DeMuro.
He didn't swing. It was high enough. I believe Jim Reynolds probably called that slightly inside.
Payoff pitch. Lee missing away. Ball 4. So Andrews heads to first. Second walk issued by Lee tonight. Well, Fox Sports is proud to support Stand Up to Cancer and their work to fund groundbreaking research that helps accelerate treatment to patients. To learn more, please visit standuptocancer.org/Fox Sports. A 1-out base runner for the Texas Rangers. Here's Mitch Moreland. Moreland 0 for 3, struck out his last time up. Moreland with some big hits this season, Tom. In fact, he is tied for the major league lead with 6 game-winning runs batted in.
Yeah, he's a good-looking young hitter that's developing. And with every young hitter, you're going to have your struggles, especially when you face a pitcher like Cliff Lee. I think the Rangers are very happy with his development. He's one of those kids that was a low draft choice. He's had to prove himself every step of the way throughout the minor leagues. He's hit 300 in A-ball, AA, AAA. He became a top prospect, and now he's getting a chance to deliver and perform at the big league level.
And Ken Rosenthal, I know members of the Ranger organization you spoke to are thrilled with Moreland's play this season as well.
Absolutely. Ron Washington will tell you that he is an earner. He has earned everything he's gotten. He earns it every day. And it's interesting. He was behind two other first basemen in their organization. Justin Smoke, who went to Seattle in the Cliff Lee trade, and Chris Davis, who was on their bench tonight and is prime trade bait as the Rangers look for a reliever.
Thanks, Ken. 2-2 on Moreland. We drove in a run last night. Rangers shut out so far tonight by Cliff Lee. Andrews the runner on first with one out. And the 2-2. Moreland is down on strikes. That is strikeout number 10 for Lee.
Well, it's that hard cutter. Outside corner. Gets the swing and a miss. I guess if you're the Rangers in this ball game, you have to feel like putting together any string of hits, and that kind of a rally is going to be very difficult. But in a two-run game, if you can get a man on base, there's still some guys in the Ranger lineup that can put a ball out of the ballpark, and Kinsler's one of them. I think that's what you have to be thinking right here if you're a Ranger. Try to get the long ball.
We mentioned earlier, Kinsler 3 home runs the first 3 games this season, but only 2 his last 41. 1 for 3 tonight. Strike one. For Cliff Lee, it's his 14th career double-digit strikeout game, his 5th this season alone. Struck out 16 Braves 3 starts ago back on May 6th.
And when you watch Lee pitch tonight and then look at his 1-loss record, 2-4, doesn't compute very well. But we've already talked about not much run support.
Phillies have now scored 5 runs in Lee's last 6 starts, including the 2 tonight. The 0-2 to Kinsler. Fastball missing low and inside, 1-2. Kinsler's single back of the 6th inning. Broken 0 for 18 slump. 1-2 from Lee. Center field. Mayberry Jr. backpedaling, makes the catch. And that will do it for the Rangers in the 8th. FanCave.com. Ken Rosenthal and Tim McCarver visited the Fan Cave yesterday morning. Many of baseball's biggest stars have stopped by the cave. Check out all the videos. See who will visit the cave next. Follow MLB Fan Cave on Twitter and like the MLB Fan Cave page on Facebook. Ken, how'd you enjoy it?
Kenny, but I've got to say that the guy who is the main fan there, Mike O'Hara, I believe he's watched 630 games already. And basically, I can't match that. No one can. He's the leading guy in the country right now for watching baseball.
Mike O'Hara, along with Ryan Wagner, they were chosen, Tom, from among 10,000 applicants, and they watch a portion of every game that is played.
That's incredible.
In Major League Baseball.
You got to love it, I guess. They love baseball. What a way to spend your time.
We had a look at Cliff Lee in the Phillies dugout. It looks like his night has come to an end. Brett Tomko, the third Rangers pitcher of this game, pitching for his 10th Major League team, facing Placido Polanco, leading off for the Phillies here in the bottom of the 8th inning.
That was an excellent start for Cliff Lee. 122 pitches, so that probably is it for Cliff Lee. But 8 shutout innings with 10 strikeouts. He was magnificent. That's all you can say.
Polanco on the base hit into right field. 8th hit for the Phillies tonight. Leadoff man is on. Here are the game. Fox Saturday Baseball, presented by Lowe's, is sponsored by DirecTV. Don't just watch TV, DirecTV. And by Viagra. Polanco on at first for the Phillies, who lead 2-0. Ryan Howard steps in to face Tomko. Howard, 2 hits tonight, including a solo home run back in the 2nd inning off Colby Lewis.
As masterful as Cliff Lee was today, if you're Colby Lewis and you're watching Colby Lewis pitch, 2 runs feels like 10 runs. But if it was a different kind of game where the Rangers had scored a lot of runs, we'd be talking how magnificent Colby Lewis was today. He pitched really well in his own right, 6 2/3, only gave up a couple of runs. Certainly pitched well enough to win a ball game. He just ran into Cliff Lee. Wow, he just missed that ball. Talk about some hang time.
Catch is made in right center by the center fielder Gentry. Only the 3rd time Tomko has retired Howard in 8 career at bats.
Well, Howard's a little upset with himself. He knows that he just missed that one. You can see him clap his hands. Yeah, a little bit of an uppercut swing, got underneath it just a little bit. But anytime you see a power hitter hit one that stays in the air that long, you know he hit it on the good part of the bat, number 1. And the side effect, the other side of it is, he just missed it.
So with 1 away, here's Raul Ibanez. Walked, came around to score the Phillies' 2nd run back in the 6th inning. Polanco back in. Phillies with 2 runs on 8 hits after going 7 consecutive games with 6 hits or fewer. Their longest stretch since June of 1908. Phillies just 2 wins in those 7 games. But they remain in first place in the National League East. They've won the division each of the last 4 seasons. Bounce foul to the right side. Well, tonight's game being watched by United States military around the world in 175 countries and ships at sea. We thank you for all that you do and hope you are enjoying the game here tonight.
Thank you for your service. We appreciate it very much. Thanks for watching baseball, too.
Phillies lead the Rangers 2-0, 1 out, bottom of the 8th inning.
You don't realize sometimes, Kenny, I don't anyway, how much watching a baseball means to our armed forces abroad until you get a chance to see some of them when they come back and they say, man, I watched you guys one night. I watched the Rangers. I watched the Phillies, and it was a big part of our day. We loved watching those games. We appreciate it so much, and you realize how important it can be when you don't get a chance to see it on a regular basis.
I know they're not watching as many games as Mike and Ryan of the Fan Cave, but
I hope not. They got a job to do.
I know they would love to.
Yeah, the two guys in the Fan Cave are probably glad they're right where they are. How do they feed those guys down there? They get like pretty good food down there?
Well, Ken, you might have an answer to that question.
Or is it all takeout?
On the ground to the shortstop, Andrews. The flip to second. Over to first. Double play will give Ken Rosenthal a couple of minutes to think about that one as we head to the ninth. Here comes Ryan Madson. Ryan Madson 8 for 8 in save situations this season with both Brad Lidge and Jose Contreras on the disabled list. And Ken Rosenthal, you spoke to Lidge about Madson.
That's right, Kenny. Lidge right now says that Madson is the best closer in the National League. Quite an accomplishment for a guy who was bypassed for this role at the start of the season. He went to Jose Contreras, but Madson has found his place. And when Lidge comes back, most likely it will not be as the closer.
Some very high praise from Brad Lidge. Madson will face Michael Young. Leading off for the Rangers here in the top of the ninth. Swings at the first pitch and fouls it off. Back behind third. Young is 0 for 4 lifetime against Madson. He has 2 hits tonight. 2 of the 5 Texas base hits.
You know, Kenny, when we were talking to Charlie Manuel before the game, he talked about Madson and how over the last 3 years there's been opportunities for him to close. It hasn't always worked out long term, but he feels like what he learned over the last 3 years has helped him get to the point where he's developed into a solid closer right now. In fact, Charlie said to us that if it's not broke, he's probably not going to try to fix it.
Long foul down the right field line. 0-2 on Young, who was the only Ranger to reach base leading off an inning. Singled back in the second and was stranded. And then a 1-out single off the bat of Young in the fourth. Adrian Beltre waiting on deck. Phillies lead the Rangers 2-0. Top of the ninth inning in Philadelphia. The 0-2 from Madsen. And Michael Young with his third base hit of the game. Rangers have the leadoff man on here in the ninth. Well, next Saturday, one of the greatest sporting events in the world comes to Fox as Barcelona takes on Manchester United at historic Wembley Stadium. Don't miss two of soccer's greatest teams collide in the UEFA Champions League final next Saturday at 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific in high definition on Fox. And then baseball returns in prime time next Saturday. So a big sports day next Saturday right here on Fox. Here's Adrian Beltre, 0 for 3 tonight, 0 for 1 lifetime against Madsen. And a bullet, Polanco to second, out to first, double play. The Phillies turn the 5-4-3, and they are 1 out away from their second consecutive victory over the Texas Rangers in this interleague series.
Well, last night, Beltre batted against Madsen, and Madsen hung him a changeup, and he hit it like Ryan Howard hit the last ball that he hit, just got underneath it. Tonight, Adrian Beltre hits a shot that Polanco makes a beautiful pickup on, and then turns the easy double play. Nice play by Polanco on a very hard hit ball.
So with 2 outs, here's Mike Napoli. Rangers have been shut out only once this season. Phillies with 6 shutouts. Great job by our entire crew. Producer Kyle Langley McDermott, Director Ray Tipton, Associate Director Kathy Hunt, Broadcast Associate Chirag Tavaskar. Pregame show produced by Don Bowie. Thanks to Marty Aronoff and Scott Aarons here in the broadcast booth. The 0-1 from Madsen. 0-2. Foul back. Count remains 1-2 as Ryan Madsen tries to save it for Cliff Lee, who has not won a game since April 14th. Stay tuned following the Phillies and the Rangers for Chris Rose and Mitch Williams from our studios in Los Angeles. Phillies and Rangers in prime time. 2 outs, top of the ninth inning.
Tough pitch to lay off of right there. That was a good changeup. He really sells his changeup well, just like his fastball when he lets go of it.
Two balls, 2 strikes.
Laid off it again. Napoli has a good eye at the plate. He'll work the count. He sees a lot of pitches. He's not hitting for average right now. He's been in a fairly cold streak, but he still gives a good at bat.
Payoff pitch from Madsen, and it's ripped foul down the left field line. So Napoli stays alive.
And Napoli's only hitting 193 coming into the ball game, but he's walked 20 times, which gives him a decent on-base percentage of .350. Got off to a hot start this year, but cooled off recently.
Center field. Mayberry is under it. And the Phillies shut out the Rangers on a Saturday night here in Philadelphia by the score of 2-0. Cliff Lee's 3rd win of the season. Colby Lewis allows only 2 runs. He suffers the loss. Ryan Madsen save number 9. Ryan Howard, 10th home run of the season, a solo shot in the 2nd. Phillies added a run in the 6th. Phillies win the first 2 of this interleague series against last year's American League champions. Texas Rangers have now lost 3 in a row as they fall tonight, 2-0. For Tom Grieve and Ken Rosenthal, Kenny Albert saying so long from Philadelphia. Chris Rose and Mitch Williams coming up from our Fox studios after these messages.